and welcome to the Family Engagement Series. My name is Kenda Boyce, and I am the Title I teacher and the Family and Community Engagement Specialist at Graham Park Middle School. This evening's presentation is Multilingualism is a Superpower. The presentation is offered in the requested languages of English and Spanish, and this presentation will be recorded. We will turn on the interpretation globe once this slide is explained in the requested language.
Bienvenidos a la presentación de hoy. Esta presentación está siendo ofrecida con interpretación simultánea en español. Si ustedes están utilizando una computadora y quieren interpretación simultánea en español, por favor, miren en la parte de abajo de la pantalla, seleccionen el globo terráqueo y seleccionen español. Ese globo terráqueo va a estar disponible después de que provea yo las instrucciones. Si está utilizando un teléfono, clique en Join Audio y después seleccione Call over Internet y después seleccione los tres puntitos, seleccione More y después clique en Language interpretación y clique en el idioma que usted quiere, en este caso español. Que tengan buenas noches y que disfruten la presentación. Muchas gracias.
Interpretation will be starting now. Please click on the globe. And we're going to welcome our presenter for this evening, Miss Betsy Cambania.
Give me just 1 second. She didn't come in.
Okay. Okay, we'll be monitoring the question and answer section, but all questions will be answered at the very end. We will leave time at the end for your questions to be answered, but if you have a question throughout the presentation, feel free to put it in the chat box. Ms. Betsy, and when you're ready.
All right, thank you very much for having me. Let me go ahead and share my screen and then I'll start the slideshow. All right, hopefully you can see my slides now, Ms. Boyce.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much for this invitation to join you this evening. I'm very excited to share with you how multilingualism here in Prince William County is a superpower. Specifically, we're going to dig a little bit into the World Languages Credit by Assessment and Seal of Biliteracy. So those are the two primary things we're going to talk about this evening. And my hope is that you walk away understanding the importance of multilingualism for our graduates, that you can identify the different ways in which students can qualify for that seal of biliteracy, as well as become aware of upcoming testing opportunities throughout the end of this year and into the beginning of next year. All right, I want to start us off, and you should have access to the chat feature, those of you watching this webinar. So please take a guess. I have some quiz questions. There's no grades, no prizes. It's just for fun, bragging rights. I would love to know, how many languages do you think our Prince William County families speak? You can drop your guess in the chat. Give it about 10 seconds. All right, if you guessed 185, then you were correct. My guess is you probably weren't thinking that number. It's extremely high. We're very, very diverse. And on your screen here, you can see the top reported home languages that we have represented here in Prince William County. Okay, my next quiz question for you. How many world languages do we offer in classroom? So this is how many languages do we offer instruction in, teaching world languages? right. Now that answer has a couple of layers. The main answer is 10, but I'm going to get up, I'll work up to that. So at our elementary level, we have 10 specialty programs at 10 different elementary schools throughout the division, 8 of them offering Spanish and 2 of them offering French as part of the encore rotation for world language in the elementary schools. And at our middle school level, all of our middle schools here in the division offer world language. There is a combination of both regular world language programs and specialty programs. And depending on the middle school that your student attends, they may have the opportunity to study Spanish, French, Spanish for fluent speakers, or German. At the high school level, we also offer world language at all of our high schools, again, through a combination of traditional or regular world language programs and then some specialty programs, which are world language connected, like our IB programs, our Center for International Studies and Languages at Hilton High School, and that's where that number 10 comes from. So you can see there on the screen the languages that are available. And just like at the middle school level, at the high school level, not all languages are offered at all schools. They are offered on a school-by-school basis, depending on student interest. All right. Couple more quiz questions. When was the Seal of Biliteracy established in Virginia? And this has a kind of a bonus question attached to it. All right, I'm seeing some guesses in the chat. Thank you for that. All right, the Seal of Biliteracy was established in the state of Virginia in the academic year 2015-16. At this point in the United States, every single state, all 50, have a Seal of Biliteracy recognition program. And if you're not familiar with what that is, this is it's an award, a recognition afforded to students who have demonstrated that they are proficient in both English and another world language by the time they graduate high school. And we'll dig a little bit into that, but essentially it is a recognition that a graduate can receive for demonstrating that they are capable or proficient, is what the word that we use, in English and another world language by the time they finish high school. All right, so how can students meet the world language requirement for the Seal of Biliteracy? Well, there are a few different ways that students can qualify here in Prince William County. The first on our slide is the Prince William County World Languages Credit by Assessment Program, which I will talk in a little bit more depth about this evening. There is also some specifically geared at earning that Seal of Biliteracy testing, which I will also share a little bit more information about. Both of these are relatively new here in the division in the last couple of years, and you'll see why we've really amped up those programs. Prior to that, we had the third way to qualify available to students in the division, which is through those advanced course language exams. So students studying world language in our Prince William County classrooms, if they're attending one of our Cambridge program schools, one of our schools that offers advanced placement courses, or one of our IB schools, students have the opportunity to take an external assessment in the higher levels of these courses, and those are another way that students can qualify. And then finally, there is a way to submit what we call external results. That means testing done outside of Prince William County entirely, for a VDOE approved test, and the VDOE is the Virginia Department of Education. They have a list of tests that are approved for this purpose, and there is a way to submit results for that as well. So I share this slide with you just to remind us all of the importance of being multilingual, becoming multilingual. Some of us are on our learning journey of a second or a third or even a fourth language. But becoming bilingual, being bilingual has many, many benefits, which fall into 4 kind of primary buckets, which are brain function. It's good for our brains. It makes our brains stronger, especially as we age. This becomes very valuable in protecting us from the decline that can sometimes come with age. It also supports better living in societies with each other that are diverse and globalized. So some of those socio-cultural benefits, the ability to understand others, increased empathy, as well as it gives those folks who are multilingual access to more opportunity, both economic and educational. So this is very important that we recognize the value of this as a skill for those that are already multilingual or those who are becoming multilingual through the learning and study of another language. And because of that, here in Prince William County, we embrace what we call an assets-based approach to multilingualism. This is a skill that we want to validate. We have very diverse backgrounds represented from amongst our families and students here in Prince William County. And so laid out in our strategic plan was the guidance that we would create a credit by assessment option, which would provide students an opportunity to take an approved test by the Department of Ed, and they could receive high school credit toward either their standard or their advanced diploma in world languages. And I'll give a little bit more detail about that, but it is wonderful to be in a division that from the top down embraces this approach to multilingualism and understands the benefits that this brings and encourages students to demonstrate their proficiency in more than one language. So let's talk about Seal of Biliteracy testing. That is kind of our most immediate upcoming window, so that's what I wanted to share with you. So the benefits of the Seal of Biliteracy, I think, are important to address before we get into how to earn it, what does the testing look like, but the benefits to that seal that I mentioned to you earlier is essentially that they certify a graduate's skill in English and another language. This can serve multiple purposes. It can be used to demonstrate language skill for employment. It can be used to demonstrate language skill for the purposes of higher education, continuing education at the community college, university level. It is very valuable in a variety of different industries. And it also helps signal a student's readiness for that career path or that college path, and for their ability to engage in as a global citizen. And what I mean by that is that they have the ability to communicate and interact in diverse situations with diverse groups of people. So that is why the seal is important. And who are candidates for earning that seal of biliteracy? So students need to be able to demonstrate their English proficiency. And I'm not going to dig too deeply into that this evening because that is typically done for most students by satisfying the graduation requirements in English. So for many of our students, that's passing their English SOLs. That's how they demonstrate their English proficiency. So they reach graduation and meet that English requirement. The other piece, which is the piece I'm more involved with, which is the world languages component. So students need to be able to speak and write, and typically it's typing because often these tests are computerized, in a language other than English. Now, they need to be able to do that at what's called intermediate mid proficiency or above. And you don't have to, fret about not knowing that terminology. Just know that some of the examples on your screen are some of the types of things that a student would be able to need to do in the language. Not at a perfectly developed, error-free adult level of discourse, but at an intermediate mid. So they should be able to talk about themselves, their families, their friends, what they like to do, what they like, what they don't like. They should be able to have language to interact about daily activities like shopping, traveling. They should be able to ask and answer simple questions, as well as write simple communications. Again, about personal related things, preferences, daily routines, common events, and other kind of personally connected topics like leisure activities or daily routine, that sort of thing. So between mid-March and May this year, we have a testing window in which we are going to be testing several different groups of students to meet that world language requirement of the Seal of Biliteracy. So as I said, students sitting in an advanced placement, an international baccalaureate, those standard level and higher level language courses, Cambridge ACE courses, those students are going to have access to qualify for this through that external test that they're going to take as part of being in that course. We are also going to be testing all students. It is our goal to test all students enrolled in a Spanish for Fluent Speakers 3 course at the high school level. we are going to extend this testing opportunity to seniors who are in a world language level 4 course, those students who might be graduating before they would matriculate into those AP IB Cambridge courses. So we're going to offer that testing opportunity to them, as well as some targeted testing to what some of the testing vendors are calling super less commonly taught languages. So students that are, again, seniors, but speak perhaps Dari and write in that language as well. That's just one example. The exact languages that will be made available for that testing will be announced in the communication that comes out about it. But those are some of the tests that are going to be happening between March and May of this year to qualify students to meet the world language requirement of the Seal of Biliteracy. All right. Next, I want to talk about one of the other testing opportunities. It has already occurred this year, but I want you to be thinking ahead, because credit by assessment testing is something that was outlined in our strategic plan. And so it is something that will occur on an annual basis. And credit by assessment is that program that I talked about briefly, which allows eligible students to earn up to 3 high school elective credits in world language, okay, by taking an approved world language test. Again, it has to be on that approved list put out by the Virginia Department of Education. And they have to demonstrate their skills in the areas of listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Now, the benefits of this are twofold, okay? Depending on what type of diploma a student will be pursuing in high school, this can allow them, as I said, to earn up to 3 credits in a world language. It does not have to be a world language that we teach here in the division, and I'll show you some sample languages in just a moment, but it could allow a student pursuing an advanced studies diploma to meet all 3 credits in that one world language if they test high enough in their proficiency level to qualify for 3 credits. Or if they're pursuing a standard diploma, 2 of those credits could go toward their sequential elective. So there's benefits to both. And sometimes students get the advanced studies diploma by pursuing 2 different languages, and that's an option here as well. So perhaps a student is maybe already studying a language in the classroom, but they speak another language at home. If they're eligible and they participate, perhaps they can meet that requirement for the advanced studies diploma by earning 2 credits in the language they already speak, and then the 2 coursework credits for the language that they've chosen to study here in the division. And depending on how they score, the thresholds differ a little bit for credit versus the SEAL. The SEAL threshold is just a little higher than that required to get credit, the 3 credits. But they could, through this same testing, also qualify for the Seal of Biliteracy. So it accomplishes both of those goals. And this is really exciting because this ties to some of our what we call wildly important goals here in Prince William County. And that is working to increase our on-time graduation rate and to reduce our EL student dropout. And this opportunity in particular, I think, is really special because it acknowledges students that already bring a skill to the table in speaking and writing in another language. All this does is it gives them an opportunity to demonstrate that through this testing, and depending on how they perform on that assessment, earn high school credits that show, a level of mastery of language. Now, students who are candidates for credit by assessment, okay, they have to be a student in between grades 7 and 12. So this is aimed at secondary level students. So students become eligible starting in 7th grade. And students cannot have already met or be on track to meet this year the world language requirement for the advanced studies diploma through coursework. So if a student has already earned the credits in world language toward their advanced studies diploma, or they're sitting in the final course in which they will meet this requirement through coursework, they will not participate in the credit by assessment opportunity. They also need to be able to perform those skills: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Okay, again, the threshold differs because the Seal of Biliteracy requires an intermediate mid across both speaking and writing. In order to earn credits, That starts at novice high, which is just a bit lower in terms of skill set. So again, on the screen, here are some sample types of activities. Again, not with perfect grammar, not with no mistakes, but they need to have a conversational ability and a writing ability to interact about daily, personal, familiar situations. So everyday life type topics. All right, and credit is awarded either 1 credit, 2 credits, or 3 credits based on how highly a student scores averaged across the skills that they demonstrate. These were some of the languages that were available this year through the vendor that we partner with for this testing. There are over 40 languages that were available to our students. And several of these, is, if you remember back to that slide I showed at the beginning, are some of our very well-represented languages here in Prince William County. The vendor continues to add languages, which is very exciting to us. We continue to communicate with them about what our needs are, what languages we would like to see, but these are the currently available languages for this testing through our testing vendor. And as I said, this is an annual opportunity, so start thinking ahead because the application window will open in mid-September. Typically it's September to October 15th. That online application will open up. And students can submit for themselves. Parents, you can sign your kids up, but do me a favor, please tell them that you're doing that so that it's not a surprise to them. And staff can also encourage students to sign up for this. When we did the very first round of pilot testing back in 2023, we did a post survey of all the students that participated. And of course, the #1 reason that students decided to sign up and then actually showed up for and completed the test was my parents made me. So great job, parents. And then the second most common reason was because my teacher or my counselor encouraged me to. So this past year, we decided to open up that application for not only students, but also parents and teachers and counselors to get a student connected with this opportunity because kids aren't always going to put themselves forward for the chance to take another test. So sometimes we need to help them see the value in this and the benefits that are available to encourage them to take that leap and participate. And then in November, we notified each individual school of their students who were selected for testing. Again, all eligible students are selected for testing. And we sent that info to the schools. And between mid-November and mid-January, the schools partnered with us to ensure that students were offered the opportunity to complete the test. In February, the results of those tests are shared with directors of counseling. And that is for the purpose of not only awarding those credits, putting the courses on the transcripts, but also for languages that we teach here in Prince William County, like Spanish, for example. It also has a recommendation if a student wishes to continue their study of that language, and that language is an available language for them at their school, we also have a recommended next placement for any students wishing to continue. Our students have been performing historically really well on these assessments, and lots of kids are earning 3 credits, meeting the seal of biliteracy requirement, and in some cases are really ready for an advanced level of language study to further their heritage language, which is super exciting. All right, now I want to share, my presentation is actually quite short this evening, so we will have time for questions at the end. I want to share, this is kind of how this works. So seniors, when a student becomes a senior, once they have met the English requirement for graduation, which I talked about for most kids, what that looks like. Once a senior has met that English requirement for graduation and any one of these bulleted points below, they will automatically receive the seal. We have it programmed into our student information system. We enter the test results after each testing window. The programming picks them up. It generates lists for all the directors of counseling as they're preparing diplomas for graduation, and it puts kids on that list. So if they participate in our credit by assessment testing or our designated specific to seal of biliteracy testing, if they're speaking and their writing subscore, because remember, those are the 2 that are required for that seal. If their speaking or writing subscore is 5 or higher, which is that intermediate mid-level I talked about earlier, they will automatically qualify. If a student earns a minimum score on a Cambridge International Exam, which That'll depend on if they're in an A-level course or an AS level course. If a student earns a 3 or higher on a world language AP exam, or in the IB program, if they earn a 4 or higher on an IB language exam. Okay, all of those automatically populate and get picked up. Now, I know for seniors, taking those AP exams sometimes happens in the spring of their senior year, and then we don't get the results until over the summer, but have no fear. My team actively reaches out to those families and we close that loop. We send the student their recognition as soon as we have confirmation that they have met that score. So even those summer scores that we get in from AP, IB, and Cambridge, those students also get recognition for this accomplishment. Now, if there is a student who wishes to earn the seal of biliteracy and they've not met any of those above criteria through the already available testing opportunities here in Prince William County, they can still submit external results from one of those VDOE, Virginia Department of Ed, approved tests to demonstrate to us as a division that they have proficiency in a language other than English. And there's a pretty simple form that can be filled out and submitted with an official copy of the results for consideration for the seal of biliteracy. And that needs to be done by May 1st of a student's senior year. When you get access to these slides, this is a live link, which will take you to our We Have a Seal of Biliteracy webpage underneath our World Languages public web pages that has some additional information about that option. We are thrilled. We have really expanded these opportunities over the past years, and we are very excited to continue offering them. We are here to support you. I will happily take questions from those of you attending the webinar. Please feel free to use the Q&A feature if you have questions you would like to pose, or if perhaps a question occurs to you later, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and my team. This is my email and phone number on the slide. Okay, my name is Betsy Campagna, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I hope that you've learned a little bit about some of the opportunities available for our multilingual students to work toward either earning credit and or qualifying for the seal of biliteracy.
Thank you, Miss Betsy Campagna. I'm just waiting to see if anybody have any questions.
Okay, looks like we got a few in the Q&A while I was presenting. Yes. So somebody asked, what is the distinction being made between being bilingual and the requirements for the seal of biliteracy? So oftentimes when we say someone is bilingual, that doesn't necessarily designate that they also have the ability to communicate in writing. So the seal of biliteracy requires both the skill of speaking and the skill of writing in both English and the world language. So that's the primary distinction between that terminology.
Okay, we got another one. So would seniors who are in level 3, for example, ASL 3, would they not be able to test?
So we are not currently testing students in level 3 world language courses other than fluent speakers, and that has to do with a really specific reason, and that is based on the standards of learning for world language. Typically, in order to accomplish a proficiency level that would be needed in order to meet that seal of biliteracy, students typically require 4 years of instruction. It does not mean testing is not available. That external option is always available. So I'm not sure if that's what the question was asking, or if it was a senior sitting in a level 3 course. And if that instead was the question, the answer is they would not qualify through credit by assessment. They could submit themselves to take an assessment on the approved list and submit that for the seal of biliteracy, but through the credit by assessment option, they would not be testing.
My son attends Kogan and has been, hold on, I got another question. My son attends Kogan and has been taking German via Virtual Virginia since Kogan no longer has a German teacher. Will he be in German 4 next year, or will Virginia also offer the testing option for this seal?
I cannot speak to what Virtual Virginia does or does not offer in terms of if he's going to be in German 4 as a senior. please reach out to me. I feel pretty confident we could connect and provide some opportunity for you. You may have to go through that submitting the external results application that's available, but I'd love to talk more with you about that option.
Why is it that if they've already met the requirement, they can't get CBA?
The opportunity was designed to meet the needs of students, particularly our L students. We do not just test English learners. We have about half of our participants are English learners, half of our participants that test are not English learners. But the opportunity is designed to provide high school credit for students who might not otherwise have access to that opportunity. So that is why students who have earned that coursework are not part of that particular testing opportunity.
If my student has already met the requirement for foreign language, hold on, I lost that question. Met the requirement for foreign language, can he or she still get the seal of biliteracy?
The answer is probably yes. It may not be through a division sponsored and funded testing opportunity, but that is why last year we opened that opportunity for external results to be submitted. Again, for a specific situation about a particular student, I would encourage you just reach out to me and we can talk about that. I'm happy to figure out what the options are that might be available for your student. There were also some questions about Cambridge. I am not a Cambridge expert. Those score requirements are set at the state level by the Virginia Department of Education committee that establishes this. So if you go to that website, you can see there's like a 2 or 3 page long document with lists of different assessments and what score is required. Typically, it is because it correlates either with the American Council for the Teaching of Foreign Languages proficiency levels guidelines, or like in the case of Cambridge, I think they may use the CEFR framework, which is an international leveling of languages. So I don't make those determinations. That is decided by the state level committee. And those are the scores. And the scores do vary because different tests have different scoring criteria. Some are on a scale of 5, some are on a scale of letters, and so that is why those differ. They represent roughly the same level of performance. It's just the different tests designate that in different ways.
Someone said that the chat was unavailable to some. I've opened it up, so if you were trying to put in a question, please do so now.
Is there a plan to make this available?
Middle school? Yes.
It is already available. So credit by assessment is already available. That particular opportunity is already available to students starting in 7th grade.
And is there a link to the external results testing options?
Yes, let me put my link to the Seal of Biliteracy page in the chat, and then that'll just make it easier for people to find. Give me a second. Bear with me. And like I said, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have unique questions about your individual student. I'm happy to talk through what's available, what's possible. All right, I put the link to the Seal of Biliteracy subpage in the chat for everyone.
And was that other question answered? How is AS level score A?
Yeah, I responded to that one. That was the different scoring criteria for the different types of tests.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions?
Thank you, everyone, so much for your engagement and interest in this.
Okay, so I have a question in the chat. So I took all 3 Spanish for fluent speakers classes offered at my school and completed my third year sophomore year. I am currently a senior. How could I get credit for the Seal of Biliteracy?
Emily, I want you to contact both me and your teacher and see if there's something we can work out.
Is there a cost for the assessment outside of Prince William County?
There are costs for all of these assessments, but some, like the ones I presented to you this evening, are funded by the division. So external assessments like AP, IB, Cambridge, we use the Avant Stamp test for credit by assessment. Those are all budgeted for and funded through our division strategic investments. If you did want to pursue a Seal of Biliteracy through an external test on that VDOE list that is not currently available here in Prince William County, yes, there would probably be a cost associated with that.
Any more questions? Could a
One
student,
participant has their hand up.
I see a question. Could a student, you see the person with their hand up, can they speak?
Yes. Could a student take an external assessment more than once
than
to
once.
qualify? Yes, that's not something that I'm gonna put a limit on since that's external to me. Now, for credit by assessment, one thing that I did not mention that is probably important to know is students selected for credit by assessment testing, they can participate in that once at no cost to them and their families. That's part of that strategic investment budgeting that my team has done. In the event a student is eligible and wants to test again, let's say they did not earn the credits or they think they can perform better to earn more credits, that second attempt would then be at the expense of the student and their family.
Ms. Udy, if you would like to speak, Ms. Flores, you have a question? You can unmute yourself. She might have it up by accident. Or if you want to put it in the chat box.
Hi.
No, ¿cómo le quita el mute?
Ahí está.
Aquí está. Hi. Hello?
No,
Yes.
lo quitaste.
Ah, ya lo puso tu mamá.
Pagaste.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Yes, my daughter, she was asking about the CLIF test. What grades can they take?
I'm not familiar with that test. Are you talking about the CLEP test?
Yes.
That is a college level examination. That is not a secondary level test. So the CLEP, K-L-E-P, if that's what you're asking, that is typically a test that is offered at the collegiate level. So that is not part of our testing. And as far as I'm aware, it's not on the VDOE approved list. I could be mistaken on that, but the CLEP, if that's what you're asking about, that's a college level test.
Thank you.
Okay, that was my question. I didn't know.
Okay, and if your student has taken a CLEP test and you want to connect with me so that we can explore whether or not that's an approved assessment, if it's a test your student has already taken, please just contact me and we will look into it together.
Very good questions. Anybody else have any questions for Ms. Cabana? Okay, well, Ms. Betsy Cabana, I'd like to thank you for taking your time out this evening. That was a great presentation that you presented for us. Do you have any final comments to make?
No, I just want to thank everyone for showing up while it's dark out and coming to talk language. That's totally my jam and my passion. I love language and want to do as much as I can to encourage students to embrace that being a multilingual learner is an asset in all ways, shapes, and forms.
Thank you. We will send a follow-up email with resources for tonight's presentation. We have placed or will place the survey for the presentation in the chat. Have we done that? We're doing that now, placing the survey. I see that the survey is there. Please take time to fill it out and let us know what you think. We appreciate and value your feedback. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to give you a minute to make sure you clicked on that survey link before we leave.
I hope everyone has a great evening. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much again for coming out. Please take time to take that survey before we exit this webinar. Okay, everyone have a great rest of your evening.